So like 6 months after October 7th, I had already decided I have to do something. I have to do something that's going to express my Jewishness in kind of like, I felt more connected to it, like almost like in a punk rock way. Mm-hmm. Almost in a defiant way, but in an artistically defiant way. Like, I'm going to be 100% myself. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be unapologetic. You know, I don't care all the nonsense that people are saying. I'm going to do my thing, and this is going to be my response. But it came from like a real emotional kishkas.
That was John Madof talking about my song, Angels Do My Bidding, written from the Psalms in the shadow of October 7th. I'm Shep Rosenman. This is The Rest is Commentary, where we discuss what songs inspired by Tehillim inspire in my guests. John is a New York-based guitarist, composer, producer, and band leader, best known for his bands Zion 80 and Rashanim and his hypnotic mix of avant-garde jazz, post-punk, East African grooves, and Jewish themes. He's released 7 albums on Tzaddik Records, works with artists like Matisyahu, Bill Laswell, Frank London, and Mark Rebo, and has a decades-long association with the legendary John Zorn. He tours internationally, has appeared in media outlets including the New York Times, NPR, and the Times of Israel, and co-founded the eclectic Chant Records label with bassist and producer Shanir Blumenkrantz. John's latest album, Turn of Events, was recorded live with his trio and is set to be released on Tzaddik Records on August 14th, 2026. You can find it wherever music is streamed or sold. You can learn more about John and get his touring schedule at www.johnmadoff.com. In this episode, we get into the role of rhythm and lyrics in songwriting, spirituality, Jewish identity, and jazz, Jewish musical traditions and spiritual practices, musical and spiritual growth, playing what you're meant to play, halacha as a dynamic process, the tension between serving yourself and serving your audience, and so much more. Angels Do My Bidding is a teaser from the upcoming EP I started in a Shanna in a Dress song sprint. It's a hero's journey song cycle shaped by the stories of October 7th, with a spiritual, not factual focus on figures like Daniel and Neria Sharabi, General Noam Tibon, and Ishmael Al-Krawani and his family. Let's start off by listening to Angels Do My Bidding.
Your soldiers pile around me in the citadel. You thought I could be ridden like a horse and carousel. Your goons, your thugs, your clergy, they all think they're my judge. The guardians of mercy scoff 'cause they know I can hold a grudge. Angels do my bidding. Angels always do my bidding. Angels do my bidding. Forgiveness would be asinine, given everything you've done. My rage will outlive 99 times around the sun. Angels do my bidding. Angels do my bidding. There's a wilderness in your heart, pulsing something endlessly dark, a rocky region in your soul. You're chasing embers that won't spark. Angels do my bidding, so my soul can be emitting a joyous song of sweet revenge, knowing that you have been condemned. Angels do my
Hi, John. So good to see you.
Hi, Shep. Good to see you too.
In preparation for our encounter, I've been listening to a lot of your stuff. Again, I mean, I've been listening to your stuff for years, but I was like, where do I track? Like, when did I discover John Madof? And we'll talk about that. But
Okay.
I think it directly connects to the theme of this podcast, which is inspiration. Right. So King David or the sons of Korach or Moshe or whoever was the author of a particular psalm was inspired to write that particular chapter. I'm writing songs inspired by those chapters in hopes that it inspires something in my guests. So my question to you is, what did it inspire in you?
Well, I really like the song, and I very much value Jewish music that doesn't, quote, sound like Jewish music. So that was the first thing. So before you sent me the sources, I heard the song and I was like, oh, this is great. And then I heard, about Angels Do My Bidding and things like that. And I love that. I love, Jewish songs. Actually, a friend of mine the other day showed me, Michael Hedges, the guitar player.
Sure.
So I don't know what his Jewish connection is, and I don't know how much this is known. I didn't know his stuff all that well, but I was always aware of him. But he has a song called Baal Tshuva.
No kidding. Wow.
My friend showed it to me. She's like, have you seen this? I said, wait, it just like made my brain like skip. My neurons skipped. How does Michael Hedges have a song called Baal Tshuva? I don't even know the story of it.
So this really brings things together for me because I discovered Michael Hedges, if I'm getting my timelines right, around the same time that I discovered John Zorn. And again, I'm not saying I discovered John Zorn, but when I became aware of him.
Yeah.
And I became aware of him at the Knitting Factory, possibly on the same bill as Babe the Blue Ox, but I used to follow Babe the Blue Ox, CBGBs.
I don't even know Babe the Blue Ox.
Oh, they were a great punk trio and great musicians. And I think the guitar player's name was Tim. I don't remember what his last name was, but Tim was just a great guitar player, Stam to begin with.
Yeah.
And the women that he was playing with, Hannah and Rose?
The trio.
At least one of them was learning their instrument. That was really part of the punk ethos.
Yep.
But they all had this beautiful, creative sense of wanting to push the boundary while still keeping it simple and accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I first came into contact with Zorn. And I don't know that he was doing Jewish publicly yet, or not a lot of it. Certainly wasn't recording stuff.
Right.
But PS 101 and the Knitting Factory and CBGBs. And then I moved out to LA. And I'm sorry, so it was around then that I discovered Michael Hedges also. And I had no idea he was even Jewish. So
I'm not sure if he was.
What was this? Do you remember that song?
That particular song?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't. This was just the other night that I heard it. We had a thing at Shul, Motzei Shabbat, of I can't remember what it's called, Kululam or something.
Oh yeah, they're great.
It's based on that. This great choir conductor came, and my wife wanted to go. It was really fun. And then my friend came up to me and showed me. She's like, "Hey," because I had sent her Michael Hedges to check out, and she said,
wow.
"Did you know he has a song called Baal Tshuva?" I was like, I did not know that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Perplexity says there's no evidence that he's Jewish.
Yeah. It's crazy. So then tonight, right before we came on, I looked over the sources to the song, and it added a lot more depth. I think I mentioned this one other time when we talk, I have to force myself to listen to lyrics in songs. And sometimes I find myself I never knew that they said that in this song. And it's a song I've been listening to since I was 25.
Yeah.
I'm
the same way, by the way.
Really?
For me,
even as a singer.
Even as a singer and as a songwriter. I mean,
interesting.
Look, 1,000 years ago when I was trying to be a jazzy player, I would do a lot of instrumental stuff, but my go-to was songwriting. And in the early years when I was writing music, it was, since I've been here, I felt so all alone. This is my 15-year-old self.
Yeah.
And it got too sophisticated, the polybestial man with his unequivocal tan. It was just ridiculous.
It rhymes, though.
Exactly. That's what I thought was important back then.
Yeah.
But I've come to really appreciate lyrics and lyricists and poets.
Yeah.
But it's still not the first thing my heart hears is the groove.
Yes, 100%.
The second thing is the melody, and then it's the lyrics.
Yeah, I hear that. I'm so getting to the lyrics. Just in life.
Well, you're a total groove meister.
Yeah, that's what I respond to more than anything is rhythm. Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, since I was a kid. I mean, this is oversimplifying things, but like as I've developed as a musician, I've just gravitated towards a focus on the rhythmic end of things. And by that, I do include like odd time signatures, for lack of a better word, because I never think of them as odd time signatures ever. So I'm always just feel it, and then I kind of figure out what it is. And I've always gravitated much more to that than more sophisticated harmonic and melodic kind of content. Like to me, it all comes from the rhythm.
Right.
And I have a very hard time, like the hardest thing for me is to come up with something different to do harmonically. Like if I have a little idea, like I just had an idea the other day and I recorded it just on a voice memo on my phone. And I was like, in the voice memo, I was like, force yourself, like talking to myself later when I go back to work on it, force yourself to write a bridge that's not either the same chords or something like the two things that you know how to do. Like I understand that stuff. It just has never come naturally to me.
Well, but so that's, I think, what we're really kind of touching on a tension here, because you can do the same thing over and over again and it still sounds new.
Yeah.
But it may not feel new to you as a player, as a composer.
Yeah.
And the question is, who are you serving if you're doing the same thing over and over again?
Serving, you mean like who am I making it for?
Okay, I'm intentionally using the language of service because...
Yeah. It's a good language.
I believe that what we do when doing music it's avoda.
100%.
And so you could be serving your audience, you could be serving yourself, you could be serving God, you could be serving the angels that are responsible for your music.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you serving? Who's John Madof serving?
Initially, I'm writing it for myself. Which is kind of the least like sexy answer to give.
I'm not sure about that.
I feel like it, but I have a lot to say on this. I'm trying to
Please. No, don't hold back. Bring it.
Okay. Well, the first thing is I was listening to a great interview the other day with Twyla Tharp, who now I want to read her book because she's like 84 years old, going strong. She just, and she's very, very articulate about what she does. And I have come to appreciate that with artists. Sometimes that's rare that they can talk about what they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Twyla Tharp is talking about the process, and she's talking about like, kind of like you can serve yourself or you can serve your audience. That's what she was saying. And I realized listening to her say that, obviously it's a personal thing, but for me, myself, I actually disagree with that. And my take on it is way more in line with what I've heard Rick Rubin say, who I think is very articulate about this.
Sure.
And it's something I've always felt, but he said it in a better way. He said, like, when you're making the art, when you're in the process of actually making it, writing it, recording it, whatever, it is for you. You are the audience. You have to be interested in it. Then once you achieve something that you're happy with, that you would want to listen to, that you feel like satisfies you, like that you made a dish that you like, you love how it tastes. It has your weird, quirky, I love sausage and dill and tomatoes and whatever it is. Then you offer it to the world.
The first thing you as the creator of that, or even if it's a cover, the first thing you're doing is telling that story. And the way you tell it, how you tell it is what hopefully moves an audience. And in moving them, that's the magic right there, where you get out of yourself and into that which is greater than yourself, because all of a sudden you're in community with someone. Even, and look, this is how I've experienced this. I mean, I used to 1,000 years ago play live all the time. But in recent years, during COVID, I started doing Zoom minyanim, which is still the weirdest thing for me.
Yeah.
You know, because like when I think of a minyan, like I think of a group of people singing together, praying together, but in Zoom, you don't get that feedback. It's happening,
right?
But it's happening from hundreds of feet or miles or thousands of miles apart.
Yep.
And there's no kind of audio cue the way we do it at Ikar anyway.
Yeah.
So like, I have no idea how it's going over, except when I see people's heads bopping, or, like instead of clapping when people shake their hands, the magic hands.
Mm-hmm.
But in that, what I learned from that process is, people would come up to me privately after the minyan and said things like, whenever you play these songs inspired by Tehillim, it always gives me what I need on that day, even if I don't know what I need it. And that was so powerful, because like, okay, if I affect one person, Dayenu.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the beauty of what we do as musical storytellers.
Yes.
Some of the things that we do, like the song that I sent you is part of a 4, possibly 5 song set. So from time to time, a few times a year, like I do Fearless, and I do Shanna in a Dress, or Amy Speece, or Steve Seskin. Like I do various songwriting workshops.
Oh.
And this one comes from one that I did with Shanna in a Dress, where we studied Taylor Swift's Life of a Showgirl.
Mm-hmm.
And, 2 weeks, write 4 songs. So we did 4 out of the 12 steps of the hero's journey. And so the first step was the call to action. The second step was the internal dragon, like, overcoming your own fears.
Yep.
The third one is overcoming the external dragon. That's this song, Angels Do My Bidding. And then the last one is life of fill in the blank. In my case, it was life of a warrior.
Mm.
So for me, like, each song needs to escalate that way, but all 4 or 5 songs need to escalate that way.
Totally.
And look, at the end of the day, they land, they don't land. All I can do is say, I did as well as I could. Like that old story, I forget the guy's name. He goes before God. Were you the best Zusha? Were you the best Zusha you could be?
Oh, yeah. Yes. And that actually, I remember reading that years ago in some, I kind of came to Yiddishkeit much later in my life, but somehow I got this book that was like, I don't know what it was. It was this like self-published book, like in the 80s. It was these little Hasidic sayings. Somehow I still have it. It's in the other room, but I had it when I was growing up. Somebody like at this like Hebrew school that I went to must have given it to me or something. And it had that story in it. And I was like, okay, this is very deep. And it also ties into something that I wanted to say before. There's this other book called Zen Guitar, which it's not a very well-known book. I don't know if it's the best named book, but it's a great book. This guy named Philip Toshio Sudo.
I don't know this.
My mom got this book for me years and years ago. And it uses the metaphor of like a martial arts training and guitar. And it starts with a quote from a musician, and then the author like kind of explains it. And my favorite quote in the whole book is that it's not even, the quote is from Neil Young, which is great, but he says, the way of Zen guitar is to play what you are meant to play, not necessarily what you want to play.
Ooh, wow.
And that really, really hit me when I read it years ago, because I wasn't playing what I was meant to play at that time. I was reaching for something that I wanted to play and that I thought I should play.
Are you comfortable sharing more what you mean there?
Yeah, sure. So like my musical background, like I never studied like formally. I had lessons. I've mostly just had teachers, like one-on-one teachers, which is perfect for me. But I did go to Oberlin I was at Oberlin in the 90s, but I wasn't in the conservatory. I was in the regular college, but I took classes in the conservatory.
They also have a great English lit department.
Yeah, they have lots of great departments. They had a great like Jewish and Middle Eastern studies also when I was there, and a fledgling jazz department. The jazz department in the conservatory was only around for like 4 or 5 years when I got there, which allowed me to like, they didn't really have all the barriers set up. So I studied with a lot of great teachers.
We've covered so many topics, but I have more questions.
Sorry for the loose ends, by the way, if you want.
This is what I call Simon Rosenman storytelling. Digression after digression after digression.
Okay, great. I'm in.
So where are you on angels?
Just in general?
Like, do you believe in angels? Is your muse an angel? You're coming home from shul and, who's reminding you to be nice to your wife and kids? Is it John? Is it your Yetzer? Is it an angel?
That's a good question. I mean, I never think about that concept in Judaism. Like, it never crosses my mind. Because I heard, Akiva Tatz,
sure.
Rabbi Tatz. So he has a very funny thing where he's like, yeah, anybody who grew up like in the West, like you talk to them about angels and all of a sudden you can see their eyes gloss over and they start thinking about these little like cherubic, babies like floating. And I like can't get that out of my head when you say angel.
But what if I say malach, which means angel or messenger?
Yeah. No, I think it's a beautiful, beautiful concept. And I know that it's really a part of our tradition. Like with many other things that, sometimes you hear something and you're like, I'm not really sure about that. But it makes sense that there are these forces in the world that don't really have their own autonomy and are like doing the bidding, like your song says, of like they're a conduit for something. That seems like, whether you understand it on some kind of metaphysical level or a metaphorical level or whatever, but I just don't find myself thinking about that. Although it does remind me, because when you had all the sources about angels, it did start me thinking about the Zorn Book of Angels project.
Yeah.
And just, and every song is named after a different malach. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so look, I think, you said you came late to Yiddishkeit. So
yeah.
Were angels part of beyond, Miracle on 34th Street or any
right,
of those?
exactly,
were
right.
angels part of your youth growing up? Like, did it come up or just no?
No, only just being an American and American culture and like watching movies and TV
And clearly it wasn't part of your immersion into a Jewish lifestyle.
Not really. No.
So are you comfortable talking about like how you got into the Jewish lifestyle?
Yeah. So I grew up outside Philadelphia on the main line, which was a super Jewish area, just, population wise. Still is. It's more kind of a religious Jewish area, I think, than it was before. There are lots of like yeshivas and shuls and stuff there now. When I was growing up, I went to public school through high school, and being Jewish was I was going to say it was nothing. It wasn't, not in a negative way, like almost in a positive way. Like it didn't matter. Like my school was probably, 30 or 40% Jewish, the schools that I went to. Like I always say, like my high school was so Jewish that the captain of the football team was a Jewish kid. Scott Simon. He was the captain of the football. He was like a jock, like a legit jock. And nobody was like, isn't it weird that he's a captain of the football team and is a Jew? Nobody ever said that.
My son used to play touch football and, he broke something or other after playing touch football. And the doctor said to him, no one who's Jewish should play a sport with the word football in it.
Right. Totally. Yes. So I grew up just secular, we had like no Yiddishkeit growing up, pretty much no Yiddishkeit growing up, like not even like a Seder. My father, actually, who just passed away about a month ago, was...
What was his name?
Frank Madof. His father was Jewish and his mother was not Jewish. All my grandparents were secular, some like radical, like left-wing communists, like in that generation. the lore in my family, and I think it's true. I don't know how close they were, but my great uncle High knew Julius and Ethel Rosenberg.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You want to explain who Julius and Ethel Rosenberg are for those who don't know?
Honestly, I should probably know more of the story than I do, but they were American Jews who I guess lived in New York.
Yeah.
Who were spying for the Soviet Union.
Yeah. I interrupted you. Keep going.
Yeah, no. So when I kind of had like the spiritual kind of itch, my girlfriend in high school introduced me to Buddhism through some books that she had. And I don't think I went to any meditation groups then, but I started getting involved in that and kind of became over time through like books and also magazines. I'm trying to think of the Tricycle magazine, I think it's called.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Yeah. And then I started going on retreats at Buddhist monasteries and like considered myself a Buddhist and was serious, like practicing Buddhist for about 10 years. And over the course of that time, I met the woman who's now my wife. So she grew up a little bit more kind of Jewishly connected and identified. We met after college through a mutual friend. But when I was in college and spent a semester away, I went to India on a Buddhist studies program junior year, and she went to Israel. So I would have never thought to go to Israel on a study abroad program.
Interesting.
Not bad connotation, just like why? Like,
what prompted her to do that?
I think she took a Holocaust history class in school. And she grew up a little bit more Jewishly identified, also in an area. She grew up outside of Poughkeepsie, and she was much more of a minority in her school and in her community. So it was just something she was more aware of. And then when we were together for a while and decided that, maybe we wanted to get married, she said she wanted to have a Jewish wedding. And that was what started us. We met a woman who at the time was a student at the Reconstructionist. We had moved to New York, but then through a friend in Philly, we connected with a woman who was at the Reconstructionist seminary there. And she had never done a wedding before. And we were like totally new to Judaism. And it was a great match. She's a very like inspired person. And
what's her name?
Shoshana Lease. She's a rabbi. She's a Reconstructionist rabbi.
So okay. So you got married by Shoshana. You're Jewishly curious at this point, but are still identifying as a Buddhist?
Yeah, but then like eventually decided that I wanted to, kind of make a commitment to like learning and going to shul. We weren't really Shomer Shabbos yet until we got married in 2001, and we kind of were like decided to be Shomer Shabbos in like 2003, 2004.
That's, I think, around when I discovered you. Like you suddenly appeared on a Zorn record.
Yeah. That's right. That's good memory. When I moved to New York, one of my goals was to like connect with John, with Zorn.
Like how does that a goal? Like I would love that, but like I would never say that's a goal.
I don't know. I just decided that I wanted to move to New York and I had started to hear about that scene, the Knitting Factory scene, for lack of a better word, the downtown New York scene. It's like the avant-garde jazz scene, but a very particular branch of it. Actually, the first person that I knew in that scene, just by happenstance, got a CD by a bass player, Mario Pavone. I don't know if you ever heard his stuff. Not very well known, but
don't know him.
Tremendous. He passed away a couple of years ago. I got to know him a little bit, like over his life. And then Thomas Chapin, who, do you know him?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, great. The saxophone player. As people say, I say Thomas Chapin, like, yeah, Tom Chapin. No, different guy. Not that you were making that mistake, but just to be.
I mean, when I was in New York from 80 to 86, I was there in college. And then in law school, I'd come back every other weekend. So that's 86 to 89. And then I was working there from 90 to 91. And I was hanging out with people like Adam Rogers, guitar player, Anthony Wright in Boston, from whom I learned all about George Esker Jeef and the Enneagram and all this stuff.
Oh, wow.
That like, the Orthodox kid in me was like, what's this? And of course, I mean, I never got to talk to Schofield, but like all those guys were hanging around with Schofield. So I was like, second degree.
Right.
That was my world, and which is how I came to become aware of Zorn and that whole avant-garde thing.
Yeah, mine was my roommate first semester at Oberlin was a bass player in the conservatory, and he had a CD by Mario.
Oh, no kidding.
And this kid was like, we were like 18, whatever. Like this kid was totally straight ahead. He's like, "Oh, do you want this CD? I really don't like it." And it was Mario Pavone Toulon Days. It's Josh Redman's first recording.
Wow.
He sounds incredible on it. And Thomas Chapin is on it. Marty Ehrlich is on it too. I think Steve Johns was the drummer. And then through Mario, I was like, oh, there's Thomas Chapin and Marty Ehrlich, and they're kind of associated with Zorn. And I was like,
wow.
I was in, and Oberlin, this is before cell phones and streaming and almost barely like the internet. They had a unbelievable listening library at Oberlin with incredible little booths you could go in. And I think they, at that time, had like 90 Zorn recordings in the library.
Wow. Well, he's so prolific.
So prolific. Yeah. Yeah. So I was like totally in. And then I had heard about Sadek, when Sadek started and after Masada had started. So I guess that was a little bit after you were in New York, like 94, 95.
Yeah.
And then
I was out here already for sure.
Yeah. So I was like, I want to be on Sadek.
So you already knew that you had this thread of it's like a chulent of avant-garde, jazz, punk, East African, Jewish.
Yeah.
So already by 2003.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. That kind of, yeah, for sure by 2003. That's when Rashanim, my first trio, started.
I see the poster in the back.
Oh yeah. That was from a show in Croatia that we did in 2006. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's proof. I was not totally Shomer Shabbos yet because I'm pretty sure that was a Friday night. I should change the date.
No, own it, man.
Right.
Own it.
Yeah. No, totally.
So your musical Jewish identity formed before your religious Jewish identity.
Yeah, kind of at the same time, but a little before. And I think it really had a lot to do with it because I remember hearing about Zorn, and then I somehow heard maybe the second Masada, somebody copied the second Masada CD for me onto a tape. And I remember walking around Oberlin, like listening to it on my Walkman, the Sony Walkman, and being aware that this was music that I was connecting to on a really deep level, and that part of it was because it was Jewish. And I don't know if I had ever connected with like anything Jewish really before on a really like I love my grandmother. My grandmother would tell us stories, and she was like super Jewish, and she would make like chicken soup, and she had like an accent, and she wasn't religious, but she was like, felt like old world. And I loved her. It was always a very positive association, but this, like hearing Zorn and Masada was like the first thing. It's like, oh, this is now, it makes sense to me. It's like, I want to be a part of this.
Have you heard stories of, because I can only imagine that this is the case. People listen to your work with Frank London, the Kol Nidre, or the Carlbach album, where people say, oh, you brought me back to Judaism because I didn't realize Jews could be so funky.
People have said that to me, and it's meant like a lot.
I bet.
Yeah. When we were in Zion, my band Zion 80 started in like 2011, 2012. And in 2013, we played in Krakow at the Krakow Festival.
Wow.
And I remember we were walking around after the show, day after the show or something. I was walking around with Greg Wall, and this guy came up to us and he's like, yeah, I've never connected with Jewish music like this before. Like, I'm like, I haven't had this much fun since like my friends and I used to like, blow spitballs in Hebrew school. Like, something like that. And I told him, I said, that really, really means a lot.
Zion 80 is the band you recorded the Karlbach album with?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was after Rushanim. Zion 80 was like 2012. And then, I still kind of say it's on hiatus. We haven't done anything. We played it one thing last year, but like the active years were like 2012 to 2018,
right.
2019.
And somewhere in there, you also did, I don't know how you pronounce it, Blivet.
Yeah.
That does not read as explicitly Jewish to me. That's like a funk album.
Yeah. I wanted a break from Zion 80.
Okay. Got it.
So I hired the bass player and the keyboard player from Zion 80. And then I really wanted to play with Matthias, who was the drummer in Rushanim.
Mm-hmm.
So he's on that record. Yeah, it just was like, I don't know I don't even remember what prompted it. I remember I had the idea. We were down in Florida with my in-laws and my kids were really little. And I called my brother and I was like, I just want a break from like Jewish music, and like, cause Zion 80 was 10 people. And
wow.
I said, I feel like I should just make another record. Like, and I remember my brother being like, dude, do it. You got to do it. Just do it. So I did it.
But this goes back to this. I mean, for me, I don't know that I have a definitive understanding of what angels are, but like I tend to rely on angels as messengers, which could be a metaphor. It could just be like, signals coming from my brain or from your brain that I'm interpreting, like whatever. I don't really care. But that ultimately gets to your heart, and your heart says, I want to do this. And so when you're improvising with, what's her name? Jessica, like you're in that heart place. And if your heart is saying, I just need to funk, you're going to funk. I need to Jewish, you're going to Jewish. I need to smash East African and Jewish, you're going to do that. Like it's not like you're saying, okay, let me see if I can do this Jewish, Eastern European Fragish scale in an East African rhythm. Let's see how that sounds. Like that's all head.
Right. Yes. 100%. Yeah, that definitely resonates. And I think that's probably just kind of a slightly different way of articulating it. Mm-hmm. But yeah. And I really feel like there is, it feels really bifurcated within me a lot of times. It's like if I'm operating from the head place or the heart place, I know that's a very like kind of black and white way of looking at it. But sometimes that's kind of how it feels. And like, I just know like it was just because it's fresh in my mind. It was last week that Jessica and I were playing. Like we sat down, we talked for a minute, like, oh, we could do this, we could do that, as far as just some very basic ideas of like what we were going to play.
Mm-hmm.
She told me, don't make everything in the same key. Because she's dealing with a guitar player, so
right.
like,
or the same
BPM. It's like it's not going to be all in the same key. It's either A or E. Like that's two keys.
Do you play in open tunings?
Not really. I used to actually. Yeah, I love it. It's not something that I do that much.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I'll tune down the D or something like that. But.
I find for me as a songwriter, I find that open tunings opens up new worlds and new possibilities, and
totally.
But also in the same breath forces you to play something that you're comfortable with, whether it's the shapes that you're used to that create something new, or, you can't figure out how to go from the 1 to the 4. Well, okay, fine. I'm going to bar up to the 4th because that's all I know how to do. Like, so it's this opening and constraining at the same time. I want to offer you a way to think about the head-heart thing that perhaps you can relate to. And then I have a follow-up question. So here's the reframe I want to offer you. We are not instructed to put on tefillin on our heads. We are not instructed to put tefillin on our arms that connect to the heart. We're instructed to do both, even though they're separate. It's the combination of head and heart that I think is what allows us to be commanded in that sense. And so in that way, if you look at what Jessica is telling you, it's like, hey, you have a little bit of head, have a little bit of heart. Don't worry so much about where it's coming from. Just let it come.
Yeah. No, that's very true because, I mean, ideally, like in the practice of doing music, the acquisition of technique is necessary, whatever that technique looks like. And the technique is, it could be something that's very on the surface virtuosic or not.
Right.
It's simply the tools that you need to do your thing, but there is a lot of head in the acquisition of that technique. And I realized after I played that gig that one reason I was able to feel so comfortable is because I had been, I've been on a good run as far as like practicing.
Sure.
Like literally my fingers were moving and I could move around on the guitar easily. Whereas I've played gigs before, like I remember one time I have this new trio and we played after like Chag one time. After a 2-day Chag, it might have even been a 3-day Chag. I don't know if there were any 3-day Chags last year, but it was after a few days. And then like my drummer turned to me after the gig and he was like, we shouldn't play right after Chag anymore.
Talk to me about your new trio. How did that come about? Like what's coming? I know a little bit, but other people might not.
Yeah. And then also, you know what? Let me, because if I don't do this, I'll forget, just because you asked about the Yiddishkeit thing. So just basically after we got married, we started like just doing more and more and more, and then ended up finding, we lived in Park Slope, Brooklyn at the time, and we found this really wonderful shul that was like a really funky modern Orthodox shul with a Chabad rabbi. And the shul was populated by like a bunch of, I call them weirdos, but I mean that in only a positive way,
right.
Just like teachers and ex-Hasidim who came back and artists, and just we felt very, very, very comfortable and at home there. And that was really what kind of brought us into Yiddishkeit, that feeling of warmth in that community.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then we moved to Riverdale in the Bronx, and now we live in Westchester.
Riverdale qua HIR, that community?
Yeah. Exactly, that community, yeah.
Do you know Ellie Kranzler? And like, were you?
Yeah.
Big influence in my life.
Oh, yeah. He's great. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I knew him when we were there. I know him a little bit. I don't know if he's I feel like I saw him in Baca last year in Yerushalayim. I don't know if he lives there or I don't know.
And Reb Avi is my cousin.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
That's
on the
awesome.
Rosenfeld side of the family.
That's great.
And in full disclosure, I'm currently a board member at YCT. So like it's all geknippt and gebinden. Well, YCT is Yeshivat Chovevei Torah, which was founded by Rav Avi.
Yes. Oh, and sorry, also last night, I have to give him a shout out. I don't know if he's going to hear this, but I was talking to Josh Hadayo last night. And when I was looking for your email, I don't know, I was looking for a message from you in my email, and his email came up because he was like, oh, do you know this guy in California? You should connect with him. And because he mentioned you. So.
That's funny. I love Josh. I know him from his days at Pardes.
Yeah. So, okay. So the new trio. So during COVID, everybody was isolated by necessity. And I had started working on this solo project, and I was really focused on that. And I put out a few songs from that project last year. Was it last year? Yeah, last year. Just like 3 songs that I recorded on my own and everything. And I kind of was like, I had in my mind, I'm going to look at I really want to focus on this solo project, recording, producing, doing everything, playing all the instruments, doing all this stuff. And I wasn't really connected to the scene that I had been connected to with Zion 80 and everything. I wasn't, a little bit here and there, but not really. And then October 7th happened. And after October 7th, one thing that I kept finding myself coming back to is I want to reconnect with people that I haven't been connected to, just lost touch with in this kind of scene. Obviously there's a Jewish component to that, but that I want to start a Jewish band. But I didn't know how it was going to be Jewish. I didn't know who I was going to play with. I didn't know any of that. And then I was at a Knicks game with my son. This was like, I guess, I'm trying to think when. It wasn't this past March. Yeah, it was March 2024. So like 6 months after October 7th, I had already decided I have to do something. I have to do something that's going to express my Jewishness in kind of like I felt more connected to it, like almost like in a punk rock way, almost in a defiant way, but in an artistically defiant way. Like I'm going to be 100% myself. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be unapologetic. You know, I don't care all the nonsense that people are saying. I'm going to do my thing, and this is this is going to be my response. But it came from like a real emotional kishkas. So then I was at the Knicks game and I get this random message from this kid. He's like, "Hey, my name is Nate. I'm a drummer. I like your music. I'm playing a wedding in 2 months. Do you want to be in the band?" And like, I don't really play very many Jewish weddings, maybe like a few a year. I'm not the guy to call for a Jewish wedding. I can do it, but like, it's not my strong suit. And I admire people who know like 400 tunes that are like, people look at me like, this one? And I'm like, nope. I don't actually. Wish I did. Looks like A minor. I'll play A minor, but So I played this wedding. The wedding actually was fun, and some other people were on it. Noah Solomon was on it from Soul Farm.
He's a great player.
Yeah, I've known him for a long time. He's amazing. Some other great players. And then I started connecting with this drummer who was 22, I think, at the time. I'm 51. I was 50. He's 2 years older than my oldest son. And I'm like, who is this kid? And he's asking me about Zion 80, and he's like absolutely killing it on the drums. And then I didn't even like a couple of days later, I was like, I want to keep playing with him. So another gig came up. I called him for it. I called my friend Yoshi Fruchter, who was in Zion 80 and who has, many, many amazing projects. And I was like, let's see if this can work. And then from there, we just started playing and I started writing. And that was just over a year ago.
Wow.
And a couple months ago, we went into the studio between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Mm-hmm. And it's been beautiful. And I'm now in the process of working on that record. I started really getting into bringing the studio in as a component in this live record, which I've never really done.
Say more?
Like we recorded the basic tracks like we play them live. And I've been going over them, adding all these other guitar parts and just getting really inspired to like, I could try this, I could try that, I could do,
And are you doing that at home?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. In here.
Okay. One last question for me, because I meant to ask this before.
Yeah.
How did you end up in a halachic community? Like, it's okay. It's fine that you found this warm community in Park Slope, but you didn't start there. Halachic observance seems to mean something to you as well. So, because you could be part of a Chabad community and not be observant. Right. So how does that through line connect here too?
I mean, most of the people in that shul, the people that we became friends with, are halakhically observant. Mm-hmm. So that had a big influence on us, seeing what like really being Shomer Shabbos means and meant to them.
Why was that impactful?
I mean, I guess just seeing the kind of seeing the downstream effects of that cause. Like if you're Shomer Shabbos, you're going to be committed to doing and not doing certain things on Shabbat. And those things that you're doing and not doing in the right situation help to create a deep community, like a Shabbos community.
Right.
Like in the nice weather, we lived right down the hill from Prospect Park. Mm-hmm. So, and especially, we weren't there that long after my son was born. We were there only for 2 years after my oldest was born. But like there were a lot of other people with like little kids, and we would all go up to the park on like every Shabbos.
Right.
And nobody had to run to go here or there. I mean, there were some people and we weren't judging them, and I still wouldn't judge anybody for that. It's not my position to do that. But I saw the value in like, we're in this and we're committed to it. And that is what allowed us to like form those relationships. And then I guess like through my learning and study and just absorbing it more and more, like I've come again, for me, from where I'm coming from, halacha is like the backbone of Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
Like it all kind of hangs on that. And obviously, and the more and more I know, the more and more I see like halacha it is very rarely some black and white thing like it's sometimes understood to be. Like I learned with this friend of mine who I have mentioned before, he gives like this halacha shir online.
What's his name?
His name is David Nyberg. He's really, really a tzaddik, this guy. He's beautiful, beautiful person. Also Baal Tshuva. He's a drummer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's an amazing person. And he, like, back in the day, like we would go to my wife and I would go to his house. Before we were Shomer Shabbos, we would go to his and his wife's house. They have like a kind of a little kiruv operation that's like just them.
Wow.
And like meals and discussions and shul and all this stuff. And like, he was like a big part in us becoming observant too, was meeting him.
Yeah. So,
but I'm sorry. But the end of that thought was that I said to him, we were talking about something in the class that he gives, and then it actually came up. It involved a cholent pot, like serving and this and that. And I told him something had come up and a friend of ours had asked a question, and the end of it was him saying like, he said, it's very rarely black and white, and there's a machloket about everything. And that's how halacha actually works.
Yeah.
That's the process. And it's a very involved thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, in that way, another friend of mine is a guy named Rabbi Leon Wiener Dow, who wrote a book called The Going, which is really a good English translation of what halacha is.
Right.
Because walking would be halicha, right? But halacha it comes from the same root. It's the same verb that is told to Avraham, lech lecha. Right. Go for yourself, not walk for yourself, although some people translate it that way, but go for yourself. And halacha is a construct from putting aside for the moment the extent to which you believe it comes from God or comes from God through humans, and it is undiluted or diluted. None of that matters. Right. Because there's a process attached around it pursuant to which we live. And if you look at the deep structures in halacha, they're telling you things about how we live together, how we create boundaries, where we are going to choose to be flexible, where we're not going to choose to be flexible. My favorite example of this is, although the Chabad community doesn't hold by an Eruv per se, not everybody does, some do, some don't. The whole notion of an Eruv is to make people's lives easier.
Right.
And if I was just studying with, do you know Rabbi Yafa Epstein?
Yeah. She came to our shul in White Plains last year.
She's amazing. And I will never have to pick one, but if I only had to pick one rabbi, she's the one. And we were talking about the rules of Megillah are similarly structured. Well, how can we make life easier for the farmers who have to come into the market day? And so why is it that why do we read the Megillah on the 11th to the 15th? Why is it 5 days? Why isn't it just the one? And the answer is because we didn't want the farmers to have to come in twice. So there's all these deep structures, and at bottom, it's not just about ease, it's about how we build community with thought and intention. And it sounds like that's what you responded to. And the way Sherry, my wife, talks about it, she doesn't believe in God qua the old man sitting in the sky with a beard and sandals sitting on a throne. She believes God is in the community, in the relationships between people, in the relationships we create with each other. And the overlay that I add to that is that it's not just momentary, because it's not just about Shep's relationship with John. It's about the conversation that Shep and John have that John's going to talk to John or Jonna about.
Right.
And then John is going to tell your kids, whose names I don't know, and maybe it sticks with your kids, and they tell their kids, and they tell their grandkids, and they tell their friends. And now all of a sudden we have this deep mosaic that has an impact beyond the hour or so that we've spent together right now. And that's where this notion of malach, which has within it lech, although there's an aleph in between, right? This notion of going comes from the messages we share with each other. And
that's beautiful. Yeah.
I'm happy to talk to you any day of the week.
Likewise, Shep. Likewise. This is great. Thank you.
So I often end with a bracha. So here's my bracha to you. My bracha to you is not only does this album that is going to be released in the next couple of months bring you whatever it is that is your next goal, because you've already worked with Zorn. Like, I don't know who's next. But that from this moment forward, you're able to fully bring the totafot of your head and your heart together with ease, and that, the worry about it being from your head and not worrying about, and the worry about whether or not you can play over changes, whatever, I don't care. Just, you have a beautiful heart. My bracha is that your heart always comes out.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Really, very much.
Thanks so much for listening. Huge thanks to John for joining me. Check out his new album, Turn of Events, on your favorite platform. Visit johnmadof.com, JONMADOF, and go see him live when he's in your town. You won't regret it. Thanks as well to Devin Schwartz and E-Rose for their producing help, to Shanna in a Dress for pushing her students to create songs that challenge us while staying true to ourselves, to Jessica Hanna Sweedler for her constant help on social media, to Liat Silvera, not only for the podcast logo, but for the song art. See more at Liat Silvera, that's LeatSilvera.com, and to my wife Shari, who is my angel, but in truth, I'm the one who does Shari's bidding. You can find Angels Do My Bidding and all of the other songs in this song cycle on most platforms that stream or download music, including Spotify and Apple and YouTube. Look for the upcoming EP in Q3 of 2026. I want to remind you that it really helps if you share the episodes and the songs, and if you like and comment and subscribe to the podcast and to me as an artist on your favorite platforms. In the next episode of The Rest is Commentary, I'll be talking with architect and one of my dearest friends, Naomi Langer-Voss. Naomi and I discuss belief in God, the connection between fear and love, living with loss, and so much more. All inspired by Naomi's thoughts after listening to Have Mercy, Loretta, inspired by Psalm 6. Please join us.